Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. You know how we operate here. We take a piece of news, could be a financial headline, a strategic announcement, and we don't just, read the summary.
No.
We use it as our stack of sources. We try to extract the strategic, the organizational, and, well, the technological truth that's kind of hidden underneath it all. So today we're focusing on this single massive development, one that just absolutely crystallizes how deeply AI is reshaping, these really traditional industries.
Right, the ones we thought were immune, the physical ones.
Exactly, the most physical industries on the planet. And I'm not talking about some venture-backed startup with 5 employees and a cool idea.
Yeah.
We are talking about the company that basically defines physical commerce across the globe, Walmart.
A true titan.
A titan. So our mission today is really precise. We've got the recent News Digest detailing all their AI maneuvers, and our job is to use this to pull out the critical details, the implications of this. Well, this sudden strategic identity shift.
It really is a shift, yeah.
Yeah. We need to understand not just what they said they were doing, but what they really declared. Through their actions, through their organizational focus, this is, it's a shortcut to being well-informed on a true paradigm shift.
And that declaration really began with a very concrete, very public action, one that just cuts through all the marketing hype you usually hear around corporate tech adoption.
Right.
I mean, we often discuss companies saying they're embracing tech, but Walmart has put a highly visible, incredibly expensive flag in the ground. And that flag is visible right on Wall Street.
Exactly. So let's zero in on that initial context. We know the entity Walmart. And we know the specific action that signals this change. And it happened on a very specific date that's going to be our starting point.
December 9th.
December 9th.
The Nasdaq Q signal. Now, for anyone who isn't, steeped in the world of financial exchanges, switching where your shares are traded might sound, well, it might sound like a simple administrative detail.
Almost bureaucratic, yeah.
Exactly. But when a company of Walmart's sheer scale and history decides to change exchanges, well, the source material immediately highlights this move to Nasdaq as something much, much more profound.
So it's not just a financial adjustment. It's not about improving liquidity or tweaking some regulatory overhead.
Not at all.
It's a visible, strategic declaration about who they are. And I think this is crucial, who they want their competitors, their investors, and their future talent pool to see them as.
This move is a really critical data point. And if you connect this to the bigger picture,
right.
Well, for decades, Walmart was indexed and categorized as a Dow Jones company.
A traditional retailer.
A traditional retail volume-driven giant. Absolutely. Yeah. They were compared against Target, against Kroger, against all the global grocery chains.
Yeah.
But moving to the Nasdaq, that's about signaling a pure alignment with a completely different class of company.
It's like they're saying, we no longer want to be primarily judged against the other big box stores.
Yes.
We want to be judged against the biggest tech disruptors on the planet. It's like they're moving their corporate neighborhood. And the neighbors they want to be seen with are the ones driving the future of commerce. The heavy hitters in tech.
That's a great way to put it. The act of moving exchanges is the public confirmation of an internal identity shift that honestly had already begun in earnest. They're just externalizing this change now.
So the market sees it.
And maybe even more importantly, so do the top-tier data scientists and engineers they need to hire. They need them to understand that their focus now is technology, not just stocking shelves. It's basically a giant advertisement to the global talent pool.
Which immediately begs the question, right? We have to define that new identity. The source is very clear about the contrast here. We're moving from the old Walmart, the, quote, traditional retail powerhouse, to something entirely new, a cutting-edge tech enterprise. I mean, that is a fundamentally different self-concept, both for them inside the company and for us on the outside.
It fundamentally is. And the core objective stated in the digest is, well, it's massive in its scope and ambition. It's about redefining what retail can even be in the age of AI.
So they're not just chasing Amazon.
No, they aren't simply chasing Amazon's tail. They're positioning themselves to set the new parameters for what constitutes retail success in the 21st century.
Yeah.
This isn't about incremental improvement. It's a commitment to a paradigm shift that's dictated by data and by algorithms.
And the mechanism for all this redefinition, it's harnessing the power of artificial intelligence to transform their entire operation. I mean, from the back office logistics that manage trillions of dollars in goods, all the way to the front-facing customer interactions that determine loyalty.
Right. And this commitment to AI, not just as a tool, but as a core operating system, that is the spine of this entire strategy.
Okay, That sets the stage perfectly for Section 1 then. The strategic shift AI as a foundational element. The language in the source is so powerful. It suggests AI isn't just a new feature, but a foundational element. Let's spend some real time exploring what that truly means, especially at Walmart's scale.
It's a key distinction.
So beyond the buzzwords, what really constitutes a cutting-edge tech enterprise, especially when we're talking about a company known for, this enormous physical footprint, massive real estate holdings, almost unimaginable logistical complexity?
Yeah.
We have seen countless companies just slap the word AI onto a press release. So what is the actual difference between simply using tech like, say, having a nice e-commerce website and having a tech-focused identity?
That is the central distinction we have to focus on. Historically, retail giants adopted technology to do things like reduce friction or cut costs.
Right. Yeah.
Self-checkout machines, that kind of thing. Exactly. Self-checkouts, basic inventory tracking software. It was usually an accessory to the core business of buying, shipping, and selling physical goods.
Right.
Technology was something you bought to support the existing business model.
Okay.
But when a company declares a tech enterprise identity, it means that technology, and specifically AI, it stops being this ancillary service, a mere support function, and it starts dictating the fundamental structure and the daily workflow of the business itself.
So it shifts from being a tool
To being the core infrastructure layer.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, we're talking about Walmart transitioning from being a company that buys and uses software to effectively becoming a software company that just happens to distribute and sell physical goods. That's a massive philosophical shift in leadership.
Precisely. And this shift is crucial when we analyze their stated goal. The transformation isn't just about keeping up with the times or even just staying competitive with Amazon, though obviously those are factors. The source says it's about leading the charge.
In leadership in this context, that means setting the benchmarks, right? For speed, efficiency, customer experience, benchmarks that everyone else will have to follow. They're taking on the R&D risk, they're setting the pace, and they're establishing the industry's new technological standard, potentially years ahead of competitors who are still treating AI like a side project.
And that's where the analysis of AI as a core strategic driver really comes in. The source explicitly frames this. AI is being leveraged not just as a tool, but as a foundational element of a business strategy.
Foundational.
When we talk about AI being foundational in the context of a sprawling retail empire like this, it means three critical areas of the business are just completely redefined.
Okay, let's break those down. The first one has to be investment.
Right. When AI is foundational, it dictates investment. Future capital expenditure is no longer prioritized just for building bigger, newer stores or more traditional distribution centers. The priority shifts to digital infrastructure.
Data pipelines, servers.
Data pipelines, computational power, specialized hardware that you need to feed and train massive proprietary AI models. So the investment focus moves from concrete and steel to silicon and data. And that requires a completely different risk profile, a different budgeting strategy.
That makes a lot of sense. The cost of failing to optimize your algorithm will soon be way higher than the cost of building a slightly too big store. So what about organizational structure? How does foundational AI change who reports to whom?
This is, to me, maybe the most fascinating change. When AI dictates the organizational structure, the teams that are developing and deploying those models, they're given real strategic executive power.
Oh, interesting.
They influence pricing, they dictate inventory movement, they inform real estate decisions like whether a new store is even necessary in a specific location, and it's all based on algorithmic output.
So the AI team isn't just a service department anymore, reporting data up to managers.
No, they are making operational demands of the managers. If the algorithm determines that a new micro-fulfillment center has to be built in a specific ZIP code to optimize delivery times, that decision carries executive weight. The human managers are, well, they're transitioning from being the sole creators of the strategy to becoming expert interpreters and implementers of an algorithmically generated strategy.
Wow, that's a strong point. And it directly addresses the power dynamic within the corporate structure. Power follows the most essential information, and that information is now being generated and interpreted by the AI. So what's the third area that's dictated by this foundational shift?
Third, it dictates the future direction. If AI is foundational, then the entire business trajectory where Walmart plans to be in 5 years is completely contingent on the success, the accuracy, and the scalability of those algorithms.
We're all in.
They're all in. They're investing heavily in proprietary complex systems designed to give them an asymmetric advantage over competitors, rather than just relying on generic off-the-shelf solutions that anybody could license. It's a fundamental commitment to being a developer of cutting-edge technology, not just a consumer of it.
Okay, I have to push back a little here, though. Doesn't relying so heavily on these proprietary models introduce a new massive point of failure? I mean, if that central predictive engine, that foundational layer, if it goes down or starts producing inaccurate results, doesn't the entire strategic structure just collapse far more dramatically than a traditional human-managed system would?
That raises a really critical question about vulnerability, and the answer is yes. The stakes are exponentially higher.
Right.
This is why that foundational commitment requires such an enormous investment in redundancy, in security, and in the continuous validation of the AI models. They're essentially making the AI the single point of truth for the entire operation. But the potential gains in efficiency, which we're about to get into, are so large that the risk is deemed necessary,
Provided they manage it.
provided that the right data governance and infrastructure security measures are in place. The cost of not optimizing is now seen as greater than the cost of managing the risk of the system failing.
Okay, that explains the why behind this massive investment. And all of this foundational work, it ties into these clear interconnected objectives that are driving the whole AI integration. The source outlines 3 of them, and they basically form the blueprint for this new core operating system.
Yes, and they are beautiful in their simplicity because they capture both the internal efficiency drive and the external customer focus. The 3 objectives are 1. Streamline operations, 2. Improve efficiency, and 3. Offer a seamless shopping experience.
It's interesting to me that the operational goals, streamlining, and efficiency are at the top of the list. That sounds like the classic pursuit of the bottom line, which is, traditional retail management 101.
But here's the critical difference and the connection. Efficiency in the age of foundational AI isn't just about cutting costs. It's about increasing speed, accuracy, and reliability across the entire system. And the efficiency gained internally, the streamlined operations, is what enables the seamless shopping experience externally. They're twin pillars. One cannot exist without the other.
So if the supply chain wasn't hyper efficient, then the highly personalized shopping recommendations we get on the app would just lead to immediate stockouts and frustrated customers.
Completely destroying the promise.
Right, destroying that promise to seamless experience. The back-end failure immediately becomes a front-end disaster.
Precisely. The seamless experience is the ultimate desired outcome. That's the thing that keeps consumers coming back, as the source notes. But you can only achieve that level of perceived effortlessness if the underlying engine, the AI-optimized engine of logistics, prediction, and inventory management, is running with nearly zero latency and absolute precision. The internal transformation is just the prerequisite for the desired external outcome.
All right, that moves us perfectly into section 2. We can stop talking about the philosophy and start talking about the practical reality. We're moving beyond the hype, looking at what is actually working according to our source material. We need to detail the actual AI applications that make up these 3 strategic pillars.
Yeah, this is where we see the physical manifestations of that foundational AI commitment. The complexity of a major retailer means AI has to tackle problems of truly vast scale, particularly in the supply chain, where, optimization can save billions.
Let's start with application focus 1, predictive analytics. This is all about anticipating customer demand. Now, everyone talks about prediction, but for a global entity handling millions of stock-keeping units across thousands of locations, what does real-time anticipation actually look like in the context of foundational AI?
It's a great question.
I mean, we have to discuss the complexity involved here. Anticipation at this level requires real-time data analysis and forecasting that is just. It's far superior to traditional methods. We're not just talking about historical sales data anymore. We're talking about multivariable deep learning.
Think about the old model. Traditional forecasting was largely based on time series analysis, which, for anyone unfamiliar, is fundamentally looking backward.
Right. What did we sell this week last year?
Exactly. You look at sales from this week last year, you adjust for known holidays, and you project forward. And it's pretty accurate for staple goods, but it's terrible at predicting rapid shifts in consumer behavior.
Okay.
AI-driven predictive analytics, on the other hand, Ingests all these volatile external data points in real time. We're talking local weather forecasts down to the street level, social media trends, competitor pricing fluctuations, school calendar changes, local event schedules, even dynamic traffic patterns right outside a specific store.
And their own app data, I assume.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
The search history within their own app is a goldmine.
So it's not just looking backward at what I bought last month. It's looking sideways and forward, trying to build this incredibly complex, multivariable model of human and environmental behavior right down to the granular level of what an individual store needs, like predicting a surge in umbrella sales in Chicago because a sudden, unforecasted rainstorm is going to hit in 90 minutes.
That's it, exactly. The sophistication is in connecting these seemingly disparate data sets. A spike in TikTok videos featuring a new baking trend should immediately trigger inventory warnings and possible fulfillment allocations for those specific ingredients, even if the historical sales for those items are completely flat.
And the implications of getting that anticipation right, they're enormous. They touch every single part of the bottom line. If they predict demand perfectly, they can drastically avoid overstocking, which is a massive source of retail waste. You're talking food spoilage, necessary markdowns, increased storage costs.
And conversely, they avoid understocking, which means avoiding lost sales and that intense customer dissatisfaction that comes from driving all the way to a store only to find the item you wanted is sold out. It transforms inventory management from, an educated guessing game into a precise, continuously recalculated calculation.
Increasing profitability on both ends.
Right, at both the waste reduction and the sales capture ends. But that level of accuracy requires enormous processing power. You're managing data streams flowing in real time from every single transaction, every scanner, every sensor across their entire network.
And that predictive power has to be leveraged immediately, which brings us to the second pillar of operational AI, which is totally reliant on the first. Application Focus 2 is AI-driven logistics. And the goal here is to optimize inventory management and movement.
This is the critical execution phase. So if predictive analytics tells you what people are going to buy, AI-driven logistics determines how and when to get it there, minimizing both cost and time. This is where the sheer scale of Walmart becomes both the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity.
We're talking about optimizing truck routes, deciding which warehouse fulfills which store order,
Yes.
managing the internal movement of goods within these massive distribution centers, and even sequencing goods onto delivery trucks to minimize the time a driver spends unloading at the final store.
The complexity is staggering. Just consider the difference between optimizing the route for a shipment of durable goods, say electronics, versus a shipment of fresh produce that has a 48-hour shelf life.
Totally different parameters.
The AI has to incorporate temperature requirements, legal driving limits for the truckers, current fuel prices, labor availability at different hubs, unexpected traffic incidents from live data feeds, and, crucially, the specific predicted demand for each item at its final destination.
So this directly connects that optimized inventory management to the big corporate goals of streamline operations and improve efficiency. It sounds less like simple optimization and more like creating a dynamic, self-healing system of commerce.
It really is an intricate, dynamic dance between algorithms. A human logistics planner, they might look at dozens of variables and make a decision that's good enough. An AI system, using deep reinforcement learning, can look at millions of variables and constantly recalculate routes and inventory placement, seeking the mathematically optimal solution in real time.
Wow.
This involves dynamically pricing routes based on efficiency, maybe negotiating with autonomous vehicles or drone delivery systems where that's applicable, and making sure that the predicted demand from application 1 is actually met efficiently across these massive, often global, distribution networks.
And even a tiny improvement matters.
A fraction of a percent improvement here across thousands of shipments every single day translates into hundreds of millions in operational savings. This is the definition of streamlined operations when you're operating at Walmart's scale. It's using technology to make the incredibly complicated appear simple and instantaneous.
Okay, let's pivot now from the mechanics of the back end, that invisible, essential machinery of the supply chain, to the third application. This is the enhancement of the customer front end. This is the output layer, the part that directly influences you, the listener. This is application focus 3. Machine learning algorithms enhancing the personalized shopping experience. This is the listener-centric benefit, right? This is where that internal efficiency gets converted into external perceived value. It's what we as consumers actually interact with, whether we're shopping online, on an app, or physically walking through a store. So what is the precise role of these machine learning algorithms here?
Well, their primary role is to increase engagement, loyalty, and ultimately lifetime customer value. The personalized shopping experience in this new AI context is not static. It's dynamically learning and adapting based on every single interaction, every click, every physical movement you make.
We've all seen the basic recommendation engines for years now.
You're right. The people who bought X also bought Y models. We've been living with those for a decade. This new AI layer goes far, far beyond that. It tailors recommendations not just based on your past purchases, but based on your predicted future needs. And those predictions are derived from the very same predictive analytics model that's used in the supply chain.
So the system is connected end to end. It means the prediction engine knows I bought sunscreen and towels last week, and now that the logistics engine confirms my local store has new seasonal outdoor furniture arriving tomorrow, the personalization engine is proactively showing me those patio sets on the app.
Yes.
And maybe it's offering a geolocated digital coupon as I drive past the store.
That is the perfect illustration of the synergy. It's managing the digital interfaces to optimize conversions, but it's also influencing the physical interface. This could mean localized inventory displays inside the store app, personalized navigation guides if you're using their in-store tools, or even dynamically changing the digital signage in the aisles based on who's walking past. The entire shopping environment, both digital and physical, is customized for the individual.
And the stated benefit is crystal clear. This seamless experience is designed to be so effective that it keeps consumers coming back. It builds a relationship where the retailer, backed by its AI, knows the customer better than the customer knows their own evolving shopping list.
And it shifts the competition. It's not just about price anymore, though Walmart will always compete on price. It's about convenience and personalization. If the AI makes shopping easier, faster, and more reliable because you never encounter an out-of-stock item, thanks to application 1 and 2, that level of frictionless commerce becomes an almost insurmountable competitive advantage over every other retailer still relying on less integrated traditional systems.
Okay, now we come to the synthesis, the synergy of the three AI pillars. We've described predictive analytics, logistics optimization, and personalization as separate functions, but the entire strength of this cutting-edge tech enterprise identity rests entirely on them operating together seamlessly.
Absolutely. You have to think of them as a hyper-efficient, closed-loop feedback system that's running continuously. Predictive analytics is the sensory input. It tells the system what the world needs next minute, next hour, next day. Logistics optimization is the motor. It moves the physical goods to the exact right location at the minimal cost. And personalization is the output layer. It ensures you, the customer, perceive the entire process as easy and frictionless.
But this is where that vulnerability we discussed earlier comes right back into play. If the prediction is accurate, but the logistics system is slow or inefficient, the customer experience still fails because the shelves are empty. The synergy is, it's delicate.
That's the critical stress point. If the system detects a potential disruption, say a delay in a major shipping lane, the synergy model has to immediately calculate the best mitigation strategy. Does it auto-divert inventory from a nearby distribution center? That's logistics. Does it flag the item as temporarily restricted for personalized recommendations? That's personalization. And does it update the long-term forecast? That's prediction. And it has to do all of that in near real time.
Okay, let's run through an end-to-end scenario to make this concrete for the listener, just to show how they all rely on each other.
Good idea. Let's imagine a high-profile, non-perishable item, say a new viral toy. Application 1. Predictive analytics detects a massive surge in online searches and social media chatter all across the Midwest. It projects a 500% spike in demand within 72 hours, which far exceeds any historical models.
So application 2, logistics, kicks in immediately.
Correct. Logistics optimization overrides scheduled inventory releases. It diverts existing stock from lower demand areas, maybe the Northeast, where the trend hasn't taken hold yet, and it initiates expedited dynamic delivery routes to the affected Midwestern stores, prioritizing speed over typical cost optimization for this one run.
And finally, application 3, the front end.
As the trucks were literally en route, the machine learning personalization identifies all relevant customers in those high-demand ZIP codes who have shown an interest in similar toys in the past. It sends them highly localized, personalized notifications saying, this item will be in stock at your local store by 4 p.m. today, or maybe offers a pre-order option. The goal is to maximize sales and delight the customer, all while minimizing the risk of a chaotic stock-out situation.
So the success of this whole tech enterprise identity, it rests not just on implementing these three systems individually, but on the demonstrable, tangible results of this integrated synergy. It has to be quantifiable. Otherwise, the massive investment into this foundational AI just won't justify the strategic shift. This complexity, this is the new barrier to entry for smaller retailers, isn't it?
It absolutely is. This level of integration requires not just technology, but a complete overhaul of data governance.
Yeah.
You have to ensure that the machine learning models feed directly into the routing algorithms and that both of those feed into the customer interface in real time without a human being the bottleneck. It's a closed technological loop, and if you don't have the scale or the capital to build all three interlinked components, you just can't truly compete at this level anymore.
This leads us directly into Section 3, setting the industry precedent. We've established the internal workings. Now let's look at the external shockwave this creates in the retail ecosystem.
Right, the ripple effect.
We have to discuss the role of Walmart in this broader industry. The source explicitly states that the company is setting a precedent for how AI can be leveraged, and that it is leading the charge.
And leadership in a massive, traditionally low-margin industry like retail. It means establishing the new equilibrium. When Walmart achieves a significant, repeatable efficiency boost, let's say cutting inventory waste by 15% through this predictive analytics and delivery optimization, that 15% becomes one of two things.
Okay.
It's either their profit buffer, allowing them to dramatically return value to investors, or it's their ability to systematically undercut competitors on price.
And that's where the power lies. If they have that efficiency buffer, everyone else is forced to try and catch up just to avoid being structurally disadvantaged. The stakes become existential for their rivals.
That is the definition of leading the charge. Being competitive means you adopt the best practices of your rivals, but leading the charge means you are creating those best practices and setting the new technological standard. You're defining the required technology stack, the necessary investment levels, and the talent acquisition strategy that others must now meet or face market decline.
And this is precisely why that Nasdaq Q move and the whole identity shift becomes so crucial to the competitive landscape. By declaring themselves a tech enterprise, they are essentially telling the market, we are developing proprietary, cutting-edge technology that is going to make traditional retail operating models obsolete.
Yes, they are forcing Target, Kroger, and others to reevaluate their entire strategic identities.
Which creates immense pressure. I mean, competitors can't just wait for the technology to mature or wait for the pricing to drop. They have to invest heavily now based on Walmart's strategic declaration. Otherwise, they risk falling irrevocably behind in efficiency.
That's a huge gamble for them.
So if Walmart is leading the charge, what's the immediate implication for the rest of the market? The source material suggests this move could very well pave the way for other retailers to follow suit.
That's the classic domino effect of market dominance. If Walmart's foundational AI strategy yields demonstrable multi-billion-dollar improvements in efficiency and it locks in customer loyalty, the rest of the industry simply cannot afford to treat AI as a sideline project handled by the IT department.
No, they have to elevate it.
They must elevate it to a core strategic pillar, just as Walmart has done.
So we can expect to see an industry-wide embrace of AI to drive innovation and growth. This isn't a slow burn. It's a technological arms race that Walmart just kicked off by showing their hand. What does that do for talent? The people.
Oh, it means a frantic scramble for specialized expertise. Every major retailer will now be competing directly with Silicon Valley, not just with Walmart, for the best machine learning engineers, data scientists, and AI governance experts. This is going to drive up salaries and fundamentally reshape who works in the retail sector. Retail will suddenly become this hot destination for deep technical talent.
Shifting from logistics and merchandising experts to algorithm experts.
Exactly.
This implies a massive acceleration in the technological sophistication of the entire global retail ecosystem over just the next few years. And it concludes the main discussion with the source's observation that this makes it an exciting time for retail, driven by technological strategy.
Exciting and profoundly volatile. The retail landscape that existed even 10 years ago, which was defined by prime location, volume, and supply chain strength, is rapidly being replaced by a landscape defined by data processing power and algorithmic accuracy. The future winners will be those who can predict and fulfill demand most efficiently and, maybe most importantly, most seamlessly.
Before we move to our final takeaways, let's just briefly do our usual source verification and review. This entire deep dive has been constructed from the insights found in Walmart's AI strategy, beyond the hype, what's actually working, which originally came from artificialintelligence-news.com.
And the value of dissecting this single targeted source was really in understanding that the strategic commitment, that identity shift externalized by the Nasdaq Q move, that's the most important piece of information, even more so than the specific technical details.
Right.
It confirmed that the company is reorganizing itself around those three interconnected operational pillars: prediction, logistics, and personalization, to achieve efficiency and a seamless experience.
It validates that our entire analysis has been grounded in this idea that AI is now a corporate foundation. It's the strategic command center, and it's not just a tool. And that's the central overriding nugget from the material we analyze today.
Okay, that brings us to our conclusion. Let's make sure we reiterate the core knowledge nuggets for you, our learner, so you can walk away with a crystal clear understanding of this strategic move and its implications.
Good idea.
First, remember that strategic move on December 9th, the shift to Nasdaq. That was the public declaration defining a new tech enterprise identity for Walmart. This wasn't just finance, it was corporate strategy and brand messaging, all designed to signal their alignment with technological innovation.
And second, that new identity is functionally defined by its core operating system. And that system rests on those three key integrated areas: predictive demand analytics, optimized logistics, and machine learning personalization. All three have to work in synergy: the sensory input, the motor, and the output layer, to deliver on the stated goals of internal efficiency and an external, seamless customer experience.
What's fascinating here is, it's the fundamental change in status for AI itself. It has moved from being a support tool, something added on to a traditional retail structure, to becoming the foundational element upon which all future corporate strategy, investment, and operation depends. It is the infrastructure of the company itself now,
Making Walmart.
a logistics and retail delivery system that just happens to be running on a complex proprietary algorithm.
That sets us up perfectly for our final thought. We've established that Walmart is leading the charge, setting a clear precedent that other retailers will be forced to follow just to survive.
So we have to consider the implication of that precedent. If all major retail powerhouses eventually redefine themselves as cutting-edge tech enterprises, if Target and Kroger and others have to adopt foundational AI simply to remain competitive and match Walmart's efficiencies, what happens to the competitive market advantage?
That's a great question. If AI-driven efficiency becomes the standard and not the differentiator, the baseline expectation for the consumer shopping experience changes globally almost overnight. We'll all just expect instant fulfillment and perfect personalization as a given.
Yes. So the truly provocative thought here is, if prediction and logistics are perfected across the entire industry, where will the next phase of retail competition even occur? Will it shift entirely to data acquisition supremacy? Who can feed their AI the most unique and valuable data? Or will it shift back to the human element?
Interesting.
The subtle, unquantifiable parts of the experience, the genuine human connection and community feeling, the things that algorithms haven't yet mastered.
It certainly gives us something profound to mull over as we watch the rest of the retail industry try to keep pace with the massive strategic step Walmart just took in declaring itself a software company with really big stores. Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We hope this has given you a shortcut to being well informed on the dramatic, algorithmically driven identity shift underway in global retail. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking those deeper truths buried beneath the headlines.